Now, for some of us, game week 30 might have been a bit disappointing. What better way to put it behind us than looking ahead at players to buy and avoid for game week 31? So kicking off the video, we've got a player that I really want to get into my team, but just can't find a way to fit him in. I've got Kane, Haaland and Watkins up front, and I just can't justify making a transfer to bring him in. But I think Gabriel Jesus is an absolutely fantastic option for the next few weeks. You know, he's back in that Arsenal team. I expect him to be the first choice centre forward. He's going to start pretty much every game that he's fit for. He's 0.24% owned in the top 10k. You know, I look at the top 10k as a stat to show basically a good view of, you know, the ownership in active teams. And obviously the top 10k is the best players in the game this season. And yeah, he's a mega differential. His underlying numbers are fantastic. He's very best, like one of the very best in the league. He's right up there with the likes of Darwin Núñez, Haaland and Harry Kane. 0.88 expected returns per 90 is by far and away the best of the Arsenal players. And I think looking at game week 32, you know, maybe on a free hit, or you're looking to make transfers now without a free hit in hand to prepare your team for 32. You know, Southampton at home, 5.9 expected points. You know, he's expected to get a return in that game. I think that's fantastic. And I think Gabriel Jesus is definitely a player you should look at bringing into your team if, unlike me, there's a way you can fit him in. Next up might be the perfect replacement for the injured Marcus Rashford. Obviously, we'll await news to see how long he's out for. We also probably have James Maddison stinking out quite a lot of our teams as well. I know I certainly do, so I'll be looking to sell either Rashford or Maddison going into game week 31. And the ideal man, I think, to replace them is looking like Martin Odegaard. Now, comparing like the trio of like second best Arsenal midfielders, if you like, Odegaard, Martinelli, Trossard, I rank Saka probably as the best Arsenal midfielder. I think Odegaard comes out on top of that trio simply because Martinelli and Trossard are going to be competing for the same position. Whereas Odegaard, you know, being the Arsenal club captain, I expect him to start every game and play almost 90 minutes. And when you compare the underlying numbers between the players as well, Odegaard is right up there. There's really little to choose between him, Trossard and Martinelli in terms of underlying numbers. So when you look at the minutes, Odegaard definitely comes out on top. So for me, he's the Arsenal player I'm really looking to bring into my team this game week. And yeah, no blank in game week 32, so it's a good move if you don't have a free hit chip left. Or maybe you could hold on, wait till 32 and then bring him into your free hit team. But yeah, Martin Odegaard's looking like a great option for the next few weeks. Now, had this been last season, as I said in previous videos, I wouldn't even be mentioning Mo Salah as a player to buy because it'd already be a given that he was in your team pretty much. I know Liverpool are having a poor season, but it doesn't look like Salah's performances have really retracted at all. His underlying numbers aren't quite as good, but I think that's just because Liverpool haven't been as good. Whenever I've watched Salah, he looks, you know, to have been as sharp as he's ever been. And to be honest, it seems he can score goals against pretty much anyone. Not that that matters given the next sort of 4 or 5 fixtures are actually really good. You know, even chuck Spurs in, who are probably the best team out of that lot, definitely see goals for Liverpool, especially at Anfield in that fixture. Yeah, it's only 17% owned in the top 10k, like I was saying with Jesus. You know, the top 10k is what I use as a bit of a yardstick really for ownership. And yeah, it's only 17% owned, so he's a really nice differential. I think he's probably the best captain in 32. You know, Forest at home, team probably going to get relegated at this point. I hate to say it for Forest. But yeah, I think he's a really good captaincy shout in 32. And he's got a lovely fixture. Leeds away in 31 is great as well. So yeah, Mo Salah is definitely a player I'm looking at bringing into my team. Unfortunately, though, I don't have the cash at the moment to do it. I think I might have to restructure it. But for me, maybe that's just means bringing in Salah for my free hit in 32. But yeah, if you're, you know, looking for a Rashford replacement maybe, or a Maddison replacement, you've got a bit of cash in the bank or maybe 2 free transfers to restructure your team, definitely look at getting Salah for 31 because I think he could do some bits against Leeds and Forest at home in particular. A final Arsenal player, don't worry, but yeah, I've said he's the best of the lot, and I think he is. Bukayo Saka, for me, has been one of the best players in the Premier League this season. He's absolutely nailed for Arsenal, doesn't really have any competition for that right-wing position, and he takes their penalties. I think even when Jesus is on the pitch, he'll still take the penalties. And yeah, I think if, you know, he's the ideal replacement for Rashford or Maddison if you don't already have Saka. Because yeah, he's just simply the best Arsenal midfielder. And I think on free hit 32, especially if you're not free hitting in 32, actually, I definitely think you need to buy him. And if you're free hitting in 32, I think he makes an absolutely, he's an absolute shoe into your team with that Southampton at home fixture. And yeah, for me, he's probably the best option of the Arsenal mids. There's not too much between them all in terms of underlying numbers, but I just prefer Saka because, he gives me that Arsenal talisman vibe. And yeah, I'd say he's equally as nailed as Odegaard and probably a bit better for attacking returns as well. I just want to give the Villa defence a bit of a shout out. Looking ahead, they don't seem, they're just not a team you expected to be as solid as they have been in recent weeks. I know the guy, he's done the rounds on YouTube first, who's been number one in the world in FPL, and he puts that entirely down to Tyrone Mings and his performances. But yeah, I feel like the Villa defence needs a bit of a shout out, really. They're all very reasonably priced. They don't blank in game week 32. And genuinely, like, Unai Emery seems to have transformed that Villa team and they look a lot more solid. They've got 4 clean sheets in their last 6 Premier League games, which is a fantastic record. The only question that remains for me, they've got some relatively tricky fixtures coming up, is has the ship sailed? And another one really, who from that team can you guarantee to start in the long term? Because they've got Luca Dean, who's injured, Diego Carlos, who's a Europa League winning centre-back, who you could argue, on paper at least, maybe better than the likes of Tyrone Mings and Konsa. And then the right-back position, Matty Cash is injured but expected to be back soon. So is there a long-term option you can pick from that Villa defence? I'm not too sure, but maybe Tyrone Mings at I think he's only 4.2 million at that price. He might just be worth bringing into your team and then selling him when he stops playing. But yeah, I definitely think the Villa defence deserves a bit of a shout out. Then finally, I mentioned Salah as a player to buy, but for me, the Liverpool defence might be tempting given that they've got no blank and play Forest in game week 32. But I am not seeing anything from that Liverpool defence at the moment to suggest that they can realistically keep a load of clean sheets. They're 10th in the league for expected goals conceded, and they're already outperforming that stat. I think Alisson in the main just bails them out lots of times, basically. Teams get through in behind, and then Alisson is so good at saving 1v1s that he bails them out. I don't think there's a clear centre-back pairing, between Konate and Matip. You don't know who's going to start, so you can't really pick them. And I just, in general, don't think the midfield is good enough to protect the defence. I don't necessarily think these defenders are bad players. Maybe Trent is obviously not the best defensively, but really the problems with Liverpool are all caused by the midfield, in my opinion. They just need to sign 2 or 3 midfielders before their defence becomes an option again, in my opinion. So yeah, whilst they might be tempting for game week 32, likes of Trent, etc., with Forest at home, I think I'll be steering clear because I just don't think they can keep a clean sheet. And that's the end of the video. A little summary of some players that I'm either eyeing up or looking to avoid for game week 31. Hopefully that helps you put game week 30 behind you if it's been a disappointing week. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. And if you agree or disagree with any of these picks, I'd love to hear it in the comments. I don't mind if you have a different opinion to me. That's what the game's all about. Otherwise, we'd all have the same team. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.